So thank you all so much for coming to our Dose of Pharma in collaboration with PPA panel event today, Beyond the Thesis. We really appreciate your attendance and we hope you get on with our today's session. Just before we begin, I'd like to just do an acknowledgement of country. So I just invite you all to pause in this moment to take in the land that we share today. I wish to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land we are gathered today, specifically here at Parkville, the Wurundjeri people. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present.
I guess without further ado, we will pass it over to Jack, our wonderful host, to start the panel discussion.
Thanks, Christine. Get right into it. So we're joined today by Liam, Igor and Ximo. And I don't know if we're going to go, Ximo, do you want to start us off? Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're working, and a rundown of what you did in your PhD.
My name is Joaquin Sanchis. I come from Spain. This is my opening sentence for all the lectures and everything. I am here as a lecturer. I have a position lecturer in the Department of Education, and I teach basically medchem. I did my PhD in Spain because in Spain you are born in one city, then you grow up in the same city, and then you study in the same city, and then you do the PhD in your same city, you get married there, and then you die in the same city. So there is no mobility. No, this looks like a joke, but it's not a joke. I see in UK, for instance, you go for the university. So you're born here, but you see, okay, maybe in London there is a university that is good for what you want, and then you move in there. In Spain, the situation is different. You have a university in your city, and then you are in there. So I finished my chemistry degree. In Spain are five years, the degree of chemistry, so I study 5 years. It's not because I repeat years, no, 5 years. And then you do a PhD. And I did a PhD in the Department of Organic Chemistry, and it's also called Pharmaceutical Chemistry, that is like medchem. Yeah.
Wonderful. And not too different from myself. I mean, I'm only halfway there. I've been born and raised in Melbourne. I've been studying here for 5 years as well. But yeah, I'm not married yet, thank God. Igor,
Thank God.
do you want to start us off next?
Okay, yeah. So I'm Igor Chekhtma. I'm a pharmacist and I work for a startup biotech company called PolyActiva. What PolyActiva does, we make biodegradable implants to treat ocular diseases like glaucoma. My role, I'm the non-clinical and formulation leader at PolyActiva, so I oversee the preclinical research program. So that looks at animal and non-animal models to help evaluate whether new products are safe and effective before they go into the clinic. I did my PhD here at the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and it was in drug delivery and pharmaceutics.
Doing good work there. I like your glasses too.
Thank you.
And finally, Liam, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Liam Koehn. I was born here in Melbourne and did my PhD at the University of Melbourne. In my PhD, I studied the transfer of drugs into the brain at different stages of development. After that, I took a postdoctoral research position in America at Brown University in Rhode Island, where I worked for 2 years looking at newborn brain injury and treatments that might be able to help be neuroprotective in those instances. And then I came back home to Melbourne here to take another postdoctoral research position here in D4 at Monash, where I'm studying neurodegeneration, motor neuron disease, and I've been here for the last 2 years.
Okay, yeah. So, regarding your PhD, how'd you pick that topic?
Yeah, my selection of research topic probably came back more to the research group that I joined. So during my third year, or summer break between second and third year of undergraduate degree in Melbourne, I reached out to some labs that did some work that I was interested in and related to my studies about doing a placement there with them. So I found a lab group that did interesting work, were nice people, very supportive and very enthusiastic about science. And they took me in to do a research project with them, and that's the group that I stayed with to do my honours and PhD research at Melbourne.
It's really important because having done a biomed degree myself, most if not all of my friends have gone into honours because they didn't make it into medicine, but yeah, they said the most important thing starting their honours was finding the right lab group, and they will try and continue with them into their PhDs if they choose to, but yeah, finding the right PhD group is important, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's, all research when you get to the stage of, novel discovery is interesting, finding a group that can support you in your development and progression as a scientist, as well as being in an interesting area, I think is just really important to understanding if you want to be in that career longer term.
Okay, yeah. And now, Igor, did I hear you say right, you studied pharmacy, is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
So as a pharmacy student myself, I personally couldn't imagine doing a PhD, but maybe you can convince me. So what made you jump into a PhD?
So very much like you, not at any point in my undergraduate career studies did I think that I would do a PhD, and nothing about research sort of interested me at that point. And it was, I think, for a pharmacist and pharmacy degree, it's generally two main paths that you would take. That's either being a community pharmacist or a hospital pharmacist. And yes, there's routes to academia and industry as well, but generally they were the two paths. And look, I'm a community pharmacist. I loved community pharmacy, and I was really interested, particularly with patient care, primary care, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. But it wasn't until maybe my internship that things started to change, and I sort of, not that I wasn't enjoying it, I definitely was enjoying my internship, but I kind of felt like something was missing, or it's like I was after another challenge and something exciting. And for me, I worked with a senior pharmacist there at that community pharmacy where I practiced, and he was a pharmacist and a researcher, and he was the founder and the CEO of PolyActiva, then CEO of PolyActiva. And so, on Wednesday nights when we weren't talking about, 60s rock, we'd be talking science. I would be learning about, what his interests were, what PolyActiva did, and mainly my interests were in physical pharmacy and physical organic chemistry. And that planted the seed.
Yeah.
Right? And it was fortuitous that PolyActiva had developed a research program, and they were looking for an industry PhD sponsored program. And I applied, and yeah, that's literally the jump. But when I heard about the opportunity, you get a feeling of excitement. Yeah. And I was sort of like, you know what? I don't know anything about research. I might not be any good at it, but the challenge and the potential for me to do something different, something that wasn't just community pharmacy or hospital pharmacy, that really interested me and resonated with me.
Yeah, it's good to have opportunities outside of hospital pharmacy and community pharmacy, because having just started the pharmacy degree, I'm like, initially I was thinking, okay, maybe there's only two pathways, but seeing and talking to you here now, there's obviously more pathways, which I'd like to ask you, Ximo, as a lecturer. I've seen a lot of my lecturers as sort of mentors. I look up to them, have lots of experience. So in your experience, are there any other options or pathways coming out of, say, an honours degree besides a PhD that you might know of?
If you do the honours, and then what do you do after honours?
Yeah.
Well, okay. This is difficult to answer for me because in Spain we don't have honours. So you have the licentiature, that is called this 5-year that I said before, and then you do the PhD. You have the PhD, if not, you have nothing. So there is no honours. I think honours is a very good intermediate stage that you can take the temperature if you are made for research or not.
Yeah.
And I think this is very good, because going in a PhD without not knowing anything, so everybody here, I guess, from here to here, you want to discover the cure for cancer. And in that part is the diabetes. And here, mental diseases, and 2 more people. But that is very nice on the paper, but that's not the reality. And you suffer during the PhD, mentally. You suffer, because not everything is immediate, first of all, and not everything is successful. So having an honors program is very nice. You see if you like how is the lab, how is interpreting, how resilient are you towards this reaction didn't work today, and tomorrow and next week and next month. But you still, it's something that forges you, that thing. And then you can, with this experience, you can do many things. You can go in companies and you can do research in companies. So academia is not only the only place that you can do a PhD, and it's not the only place that you can do research. You can do research without having a PhD in a company, and honors, it's telling to you how to do research. It's like a intensive course on what skills do you need and what is the process to do research. And then you apply to whatever you want. So I think there are positions that you can get with the honors, without the PhD. Then there is another thing, the problem of recognition of your degree. So if you're in Australia, if you say, I have honors, then everybody understands. If you come to Spain with honors, what is that? You have to explain that. Okay. While if you go with a PhD, everybody recognizes what this PhD is. So it's easier to integrate, if you're planning to move around, PhD is a good option because they understand.
Because you can do an honours degree in Australia, but then if you want to go work overseas, it's like it's not recognised. Okay, that's interesting.
It depends on the country. If you go to UK, in the UK they call masters. So
I see.
I came here and I say, well, the masters here, and they say, no, we don't have masters. Masters. Now there are masters, which are
got some different master's degrees.
But if it is Master of Philosophy, means you were not finishing your PhD well, and then you enroll to masters. Which before the new masters, it was another master. So I was like confused with, no, we have honors. Okay, honors.
Okay.
So every system has their structure, and then you have to convince the person, I am here in that point or that point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you were saying before it's quite mentally straining doing a PhD. So this goes to all three of you. Do you have any tips for anyone going into a PhD, planning or currently doing one? Give us 2 tips each.
I think leaning on people is very important, and I think you've got to have people outside of your immediate bubble of your research group that you can lean on, friends and family. That's important, but at the same time lean on your cohort and the people who understand a little bit more about the struggles that you're doing. You can maybe explain to your friends and family that you've got some experiment that's not working and they think that's very nice but don't really understand what that means. So having that sort of balance between people who you can lean on in your life that are separated from the people in the groups that you're in, and then on the flip side, people who really understand what you're doing.
Okay.
The Me Too sentence. Not the Me Too, the last Me Too. The Me Too is like, oh, my reaction is not working. Me too. So that, I don't know why, it makes you feel good. I don't know why, because your reaction didn't work. It doesn't change anything. Yeah, but yeah.
Hey, no result's still a result.
I think it's very important. Very important. I see in Spain we're very social, and we normally go lunch with your friends. So I was going lunch with the department of, I was in organic chemistry, but I had computational chemistry, downstairs physical chemistry. So we were more or less the group of friends that we were in the licentiature, in the Bachelor. And then you also learn, because you're talking about chemistry, organic chemistry, and they are talking about quantum physics. And apparently there is no relationship, but there is a relationship. And it clicks, it makes you happy talking to people, yeah. And I've seen people in other countries that they have a sandwich for lunch in front of the screen. And this is not good, in my opinion, for me, I don't know. Yeah. I think having a network of people, it's very important.
What about you, Igor?
Yeah,
Got any tips?
Agree. Yeah, community, super important. The only thing I'd add was, I think it's important to treat it like a job. Regular hours, 9, 5, be organised. You know, set some time out for yourself, right? I don't work, like 24/7. It's very easy. Like for the PhD, that's your baby, that's your project. It's so important to you, and it's really easy, super easy, to devote all of your time and waking moments to the PhD. But it's a long time. You can't do that for 4 years. So my advice would be to treat it like a job, regular hours. You're entitled to leave. Take leave. If you're sick, don't come in, and make sure you take time out for yourself. Exercise was really important for me. Just because you're mentally exerting yourself, but sometimes you need to physically exert yourself just to switch the mind off. So yeah, that would be my advice.
I would also add all the PhDs that I have met, and many people. So you go the first day with your supervisor, first day of your PhD, and then on a paper is, we're going to do this. This is going to be your PhD. And then it takes 3 years to do that. So it's not something automatic. It's not something that everything is going to work, everything is going to be like in the paper. Okay, if you imagine the most important day in your life, I don't know, the wedding day, because you don't think, I don't know, my trousers are going to rip here a little bit. You're not thinking about those details, but those details count at the end. So when you plan your PhD, you're not thinking about the problems that you're going to have, but you're going to have 20,000 million problems, and this is normal. It's what it happens. It's normal. The paper is, everything is so easy to do, but the reality is not easy. So if you believe that, that has to work, that is in the paper, that is so easy, that has been published before, and you start thinking, it's me. No, it's not you. It is like that. It takes time. It takes time and problems and problems and problems. So my recommendation is relativize, how do you say this thing? Make relative everything. So it's not a big deal. Okay, your reaction didn't work. It's not a big deal. Keep the big picture. Okay, it's fine. If I cannot go in that direction, I will twist and I will do that direction. It's okay. Keep a big picture and don't focus on the small things. And every day you're going to be crying, and the following day you're going to be laughing, and then the following day you feel good, and the following day you feel like, I will never have my PhD. And this is not true. You will have your PhD.
It sounds like a real roller coaster.
Yeah, it is.
Tell you what.
It's It's like that.
Yeah, going back to what Igor said, you said it's a 9 to 5 doing a PhD, but did any three of you work whilst doing your PhDs? I'm curious.
No, well, I worked through the university, I suppose.
Yeah, so
demonstrating
TA
and
work?
teaching,
Yeah.
That's that sort of stuff. Marking any work through university was a bit easier to work through your schedule, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
But I understand it's obviously not the case for some other people. You need to know your circumstances and what you require. Some people need more financial support. Some people have more family and people to lean on, depending on where they are in their particular circumstances. So having all of that planned is really important, so you know that if you do need to work a bit more, how you can balance your schedule so you can, as Igor was saying, fit the time for yourself into your life as well. And it's pretty personal, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Because, I guess it's pretty good we can do TA work whilst doing our PhDs, because, you can have your office here in Parkville and then go to class down the hall, that sort of thing. And I know whilst I was doing my science degree, just about all of my TAs were all PhD candidates, and they appreciated being able to teach while still being able to complete their PhDs. So I think it's good. Because is it mandatory at Monash, at least? No? Not that you know of. Yeah, so
Many do.
Many do, though. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to ask, because obviously you're all quite successful. You've got your careers built up and even progressing further now. So how did your PhD research influence what careers you're in today? Do you want to start with Igor?
Yeah, I guess it was the biggest the longest work experience placement I'd ever had, because I'm still at PolyActiva. So, for me, I was in the fortunate position that it was an industry-sponsored PhD, and so the research question, the research project that I started was pretty well defined. Like, I knew what the research question was. That did help, but like Ximo says, stuff happens.
Yeah.
Right? And so I learned a lot of the skills and a lot of the technology that PolyActiva uses. Got a lot of industry experience throughout my PhD. There was still no guarantee that at the end of my PhD that I would get a job, and I was looking, you gotta start early. You gotta start, networking, forging relationships with potential collaborators and people overseas, groups that you're interested in working with. So I was doing that, and I guess as the company had some startups are notoriously that make it or break. We've been lucky that we've been going for as long as we have. But just as I was about to finish my PhD, a pivotal study went well, more funding came in, there were job opportunities available.
Good. Yeah.
And I applied and, I was again successful in staying put at PolyActiva, so yeah.
Yeah, and your colleagues at PolyActiva, have they also done PhDs? Or?
Early days, because we ran sort of lean. Yes, it was important to have PhD candidates working with us, just not discouraging, like honours or things like that. But at that point, we really needed people to think, be super independent, work independently, and just almost get on with it. There was less than 10 people in the company.
Yeah, the PhD made you really an independent
was really
worker.
important. Now that we're a little bit bigger, there's room to have, there's more jobs and things like that. And we do, we definitely value honours graduates and even undergraduates as well in the company.
All right. And Liam, maybe how's your PhD driven to where you are today? Why are you sitting with us here today,
Yeah, I guess quite directly in terms of throughout my PhD, it is the time period where you have that extended access to research where you kind of will know whether that's a career you want to go forward in academia or not. So in terms of framing my mindset of what I wanted to do in terms of career path, it was very big. And then sort of the training that I got throughout my PhD, I guess directly relates to what I'm doing now in terms of being in academia, neuroscience research.
Yeah.
But more importantly, probably the training from the PhD is what allowed me to get the positions that I've had since my PhD as well.
Okay.
So, the training and what you're able to complete during that time is, I guess, your resume in a sense for getting those future positions.
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope so. And Ximo, so how'd you end up in education out of a PhD?
It's a long story. I had a girlfriend for 8 years when I was doing my PhD. And we split it the last year I was finishing my PhD. So my life was going to be stay in Valencia because I'm Spanish, so everybody stays there until they die. So we split in the last year because I wanted to go, well, it doesn't matter why. And then I thought, oh, look at that. I have a PhD title. I can do postdocs. The wall is there. I can choose. When you are doing a PhD, you have like a big stone on your head. Because the PhD means you have to have a starting point, and you have to have a ending point, and you have to have a story in there. So you have to tell a story to the panel or writing your thesis, you need a story. And that's a stone, because you need to have the story. The moment you don't have to write a story, oh my God, science is there. So you go postdoc, you go in a group, and then you go for that project, that thing. It's much more flexible, believe me. It's like, boom, science. And then you can go everywhere you want to go. You can travel in countries. I've been researching, not visiting, researching. I've been in Germany, in 2 places in Germany. I've been in 2 places in the UK. I've been in the US, and I've been here. And in every place, you learn things, different things. Because even if it is in the same topic, you're learning many things. You're learning how they research there, how they think in there, how... If you want to be struck by science, go in a conference in a talk of a Japanese person. They think different. It's like, oh my God. So in every country, they have different things, and you learn, and you can do that because you have a PhD, and then you can do postdocs. And getting a postdoc position is relatively easy. So you go to US, and then you go to here, and you go to here, and you come back. Yeah. So I came to Australia. I told my mother, even if I have to go to Australia to do my postdoc, and there, boom, Melbourne, the last corner of Australia. And it's nice because it's science. And every time you go in a place, you open your scope. So now I'm lecturing. But when I don't know if you perceive this thing, but I know how I feel when I try to lecture. I'm not trying to lecture this thing here that is the content of the slide. I'm trying to think broad, because I have been in all the parts of the process in pharmacy. I've been in the chemistry, I've been in the cells, in the microscope, in the flow cytometry, in the animals, everywhere. I know the problems from everywhere. I try to integrate everything. So without those postdocs, in biotech or in polymers, I would not be the person who understands the big picture again.
Yeah.
So definitely, it helps a lot. You have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
You can't imagine.
what you're just saying, it really reiterates the importance of networking, making international contacts, because like I myself probably have a completely different train of thought in solving a medication-related problem to someone who's studying pharmacy over in the US or in the UK. So yeah, that's fascinating. But do you have a favourite country you've been to?
Australia, Melbourne.
Fair enough.
No, many countries. I like Germany.
Like Germany, yeah.
Because the way they think.
Yeah.
The way they research, the way they think, I like Germany.
Yeah, they've got a big history in the pharmaceutical industry too, don't they? Way back into the 20th century and beforehand. So
I'd have a lot of chemistry in there.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Germany, having done a chemistry degree myself. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe just while we're here, do we all want to tell like what was one really good highlight of doing your PhD? It's just to brighten the mood, I suppose. Igor, do you want to start us off?
Do you know, I'm thinking about the finish of the PhD, right? I'm thinking about, you'd expect, you finish, pen down, confetti. It didn't happen. It was the most anticlimactic moment of my life when you submit that thing and you're like, now what?
Now what, yeah.
It was, the highlight for me was the people and the people that I had met and made friends with along the way, the community. I think that's what I remember. I don't really remember now. I know there were times where it was tough and experiments didn't work, and a lot of life happens in 4 years, 3-4 years, life happens,
Yeah.
I don't sort of remember the fact that I couldn't get the HPLC run to go for 6 months. I don't remember that. I remember it, but I don't have any strong emotions to it.
Yeah.
But the highlights were definitely the times, PPA events. Yeah, plug for you. The social functions. The fact that I could just have a coffee with someone here when times were a bit tough. I think they're the highlights for me for my PhD.
Yeah, I think that's a universal thing across all tertiary study, because I started studying at uni in 2020, spent 2 hours on campus, That was, I don't remember staying home in my study for that entire year and most of the next year as well. I remember things like, catching up for lunch before my immunology lab every Thursday last semester, or going to the biomed ball, that sort of thing. And yeah, so I'm keen as a postgraduate now, I suppose, to make more of those sort of memories whilst I study at uni. Like even just being here today is something I would have never imagined I would be doing 4 years ago. So yeah, a lot happens in 4 years, 4 or 5 years, however long it takes to do a PhD. You're absolutely right there. But yeah, Liam, surely you got a good story for us.
Yeah, I think we spoke a bit about how PhD opens up international opportunities, like once you're finished, but during as well. So I spent 3 months doing part of my PhD in Lyon in France. So the opportunity to go and research is opened up during your PhD too. Went to conferences in Europe and in America during my PhD and really made the most of those opportunities. So when I went to go to a conference that was in New York, found 3, 4, 5 labs in that part of the world that I could go visit, learn a bit about their places, present at some seminars there in those institutes, and really open up some networks, meet a lot of people, do some interesting stuff, sort of making the most of the opportunities that can come during the PhD. Yeah, there's a lot that you can do, especially if you like to travel.
Yeah, studying abroad is fantastic, because I was, again, luckily enough, when I was doing my science degree, I think it was the summer of 2022, I was lucky enough to go to a science unit out at the Prado campus. Cool. So that was a beautiful little mansion Monash has in the middle of some random city, half an hour out of Florence. But I will never forget the 3.5 weeks I was there. Yeah, it's such a great opportunity to be able to just study abroad, and the people you meet as well. Because I think I went over there and I met law students, engineering students, more science students I'd never seen in my life. studying a myriad of topics. And yeah, it's just the people you meet. Again, it's so important, isn't it? And that goes for the same as in a PhD as well as undergrad studies. Yeah, and Ximo, lucky last. Surely you've got a good story for us.
I agree with you guys about the placements that you can do when you're doing your PhD and you go. The first time that you are on a stage telling about your science, your results, and you see the best people in the field that they are there listening to you, and they ask you maybe a question, maybe they don't care about what they ask, but they ask you a question, and it's like, oh my God, this big scientist is asking me a question. You feel good in there. You feel like, wow, the adrenaline goes. One that I will always remember, it was doing a reaction, and I was super confident. Oh, it was a sterification, doesn't matter. There was sulfuric acid involved. And then I thought, oh, it's lunchtime, I had to put a bit of sulfuric acid, and I put the sulfuric acid from the bottle like this. That was methanol, it was hot, and this, and it came into my eye.
Ah.
And then I closed the eye, and I thought, it's too late. I lost my eye. It's too late. Because I didn't have the glasses, obviously. Since then, I always, thanks, it was on the white of the eye, so it was not affecting my vision or anything. I can see you all. Since then, I had to wear glasses, so safety first. And since then, safety first for me, definitely. And then I also remember before, in Spain, here in Australia, you write your thesis, you submit to the correctors, markers, and then they come back with the corrections. In Spain, you have to do a show in front of all the department, all your friends, my grandmother there. My exposition of my viva, it was a part in English, so my grandmother didn't understand the chemistry in Spanish. You can imagine in English. She was sleeping there. Yeah, your family also look at you like, oh my God, you did it. You're the first PhD in the family, and that is also a satisfaction. But this is kind of ego. I remember the 5 minutes before this defense, where I was alone, no one was in the lecture theater, and I was thinking, you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. You went through all this roller coaster, you did it. This feeling is amazing. It's a self-reflection, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I reckon before we wrap up, Ximo, first of all, if you could go back and tell your bachelor self some advice briefly, what would it be?
Some advice. Be relative. Nothing is that bad. Doesn't matter. The reaction didn't work, it's okay. It's okay, you'll get your PhD, don't worry. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's always good to have that mindset. It's just
I would also tell, okay, don't follow that path because it's not working.
Yeah.
Now I know. Follow that one.
Yeah.
Because at the end, you can reproduce your PhD in maybe, I don't know, 3 days experiment. Once you know the pathway, it's easy to follow the pathway. Yeah. The difficulty is to find the pathway. I mean, if you're doing synthesis and you have many possibilities, and the last one works, but the others didn't work, so if you have done that one, you could have finished your PhD in the first 3 months. But that never happens. And this is normal, and just relax, and it's okay, it's normal, it's normal.
All right. And Liam, if you could go back and tell yourself something, I say if in your first or second year of uni, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, and I agree that it's a lot about framing your mindset with doing research. When the experiments don't work, I guess at the start of my research career, I took it to heart because I cared so much about the project. Whereas nowadays, when things don't work, you frame it a lot more as if it's a puzzle that you're trying to solve, and really how you can figure out what's going wrong to cause that problem is sort of interesting and exciting to me in itself. And if I had those first few years of research where I felt that way, I think it would have been a much more enjoyable and easy start to the research career. I think it's just, it's all about how you look at these things.
Excellent. All right. And Igor?
Fail.
Fail.
That would be the thing that I would tell myself. Fail. Be comfortable with failure.
Yeah.
Because you learn so much more from each failure than you would otherwise. You build resilience. Actually, realistically, it's never a bad time to fail. You're always going to learn something, whether it's in a PhD or not now, later in life. I think that would be the one.
Honestly, I'd go back and tell myself if I was in first, second year, exactly the same. Because going to biomed, had that mentality, oh, I've got to chase the PhD to get into medicine. But that just, it wasn't worth it. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up with the questioning today. Otherwise, thank you very much. Thanks all for attending as well. I think we're just going to do a brief Q&A. So if anyone in the audience wants to ask any questions, raise your hands. We'll get a microphone out to you. Or
Thank you for the panel. It's really interesting. I guess I had a question around the timing of doing a PhD. So I know, Igor, you did your pharmaceutical degree and you worked a little bit and then you came back to do one. I think Lee was told you took a year break to work. And I'm not sure about your achievement, but I guess what made you come back to study and do a PhD? And I guess there's never a right time, but how did you know that you were ready to do it?
Yeah, I took breaks to feel things that I wanted to do in my life, I guess, along my journey. So I took a year off between my undergraduate degree and my honours year. I already knew I wanted to do honours year, but I really wanted to travel, so I took the year off. I worked for 6 months. I worked in a supermarket. I worked as a research assistant as well during that time for the first half of the year. Got a lot of money, spent all that money traveling around the world for 6 months. Then came back and did my honours, which I really enjoyed. And again, I wanted to progress to the PhD because I loved research and I wanted to keep going. But I still wanted to travel and do all these other things, so I took another 6 months. I started my PhD half year because I wanted to go travel, and I had other goals for myself that I wanted to fit in. And when I came back from that, I still had the same desire to do the next stage of research and sort of continued from there. It's not something that you have to jump straight from one thing into the next.
Yeah. Oh, I think I knew when I heard about the opportunity that I wanted to go back, and I thought, you know what, I may have had a crappy day that day at the pharmacy. Someone yelled at me, or felt some abuse, and I was like, you know what, I've still got a lot of life to live. Why not come back? If it doesn't work out, you can always quit. That's still an option. If you go even. And I know plenty of PhD students that go through, most of them finish, but some don't. And not taking anything away from those PhD students that make the decision to say, hey, this isn't for me, I'm gonna pursue something else. That in itself is really, really admirable. But yeah, for me, it was that excitement. I was like, yeah, let's do something different. I wanted to try it.
I guess I have one more question. So, like I said, I've done the science degree at Monash. I've been taught by a lot of PhD candidates, but I don't know, how do you actually get into a PhD? Like, is it competitive, or is it depends where you're going? I don't know if any one of you want to answer.
Oh, yeah.
It's competitive.
Yeah.
It's super competitive.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
competitive because the fees are... I compare also with Spain. Spain, the fees are very low for the whole year of medicine first year. Maybe it's like $1,000, the fee.
Okay.
So it's very different. Here is like 40 something. So here, if you want to do a PhD, you need to have a scholarship. And to get a scholarship is the problem.
Okay.
You can do without scholarship, but and also there is another factor, that is, if you don't have the scholarship, you are not get paid.
Okay, yeah.
Well, or somebody has to pay you, but I don't know who.
Yeah.
So you need to get a scholarship, and there is where the competition comes from.
Yeah, okay.
So you do need to do a very good honors, and then with the results of the honors, they grade you in a ladder, and then they start assigning the scholarships according to that ladder. So the first one get that scholarship, the second one that.
Yeah.
So I think the competition comes from there.
Yeah.
Really.
So it's almost a paywall to get into PhDs in Australia, would you say?
I think the problem of research is very nice. Everybody wants to do research, but research is very expensive, and you need to pay your research. That's the problem. Who is paying your research?
Yeah.
Who's paying your salary? Who's paying your... If you're in a company, you produce, microphones. You are in the company of microphones. So you make the microphone and you sell the microphone. That's easy, and then the customer gives you the money, and that's the money. But when you're doing research, what do you sell? To whom? Who's paying for that? Who's paying for that? Who's paying for your thesis? Nobody's paying for your thesis. In long term, maybe you will do a product, in long term. But for the short term, who's paying for that? So there's where you need to go in the system. So you can go through the system by the government gives me a scholarship, and then I can go on. Or you can go through the system by the group where I'm going to do my PhD, apply for a project, and the government gave them money to hire a PhD.
Okay.
So you don't have a scholarship, but you can go to a group that they have a running project, and then you will see advertisement, PhD for whatever,
Yep.
because they have the money for that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Those are the two entries to the PhD, and you can do the PhD without being paid, but that long term, I think, is not viable. So eventually, you need somebody pays you.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's a matter of self-esteem also.
Yeah, and it's a full-time job as well. So,
Yeah.
can't just live out of your parents' basement while you do your PhD, I suppose. Okay. Well, thanks for that. That's a good response. Now we're a bit more enlightened into how a PhD works.
Look, from a more left-focused statement where the more qualified you are, the harder it is to find a job because you're overqualified now. But since you guys are outside the education scope now, how true has it been in your experience where the more qualified you are, the more difficult and competitive it is to find a position somewhere?
It's interesting because in science, they really look for, like a lot of jobs, they look for a specific skill set. And the later, the more senior you sort of become, it's almost like the more difficult it is because you need to fill a particular niche. I think it's almost easier when you finish your PhD, and I can talk more about like what it's like to go into industry. It's easier, I think, to get the earlier positions, like your grad positions after honours or straight after your PhD, because you've got a lot of technical knowledge, you've developed a lot of soft skills as well throughout your PhD, and they're really important, and that makes you really employable, I think. But as you progress throughout your scientific career, you pick your pathway, and particularly in Australia, where the pharmaceutical industry is nowhere near as large as it is in Europe or the United States, it becomes more and more difficult to find those specific opportunities.
Yeah, I think it comes down, like once you have your PhD, it comes down to how flexible you are, I suppose. You can very easily get into a niche of, I really want to work here and I really want to work on this topic, and therefore there's probably only one, maybe two groups that you can do that in, and then you've got to marry up a time where they're also looking for people, or you can get some money together to work together. The more flexible you are at the stage where you are in an area of research and you really want to be there, your opportunities open up, the broader that you can sort of land your scope. As Igor mentioned, when you've got your PhD and you're applying for jobs with lots of people with the PhD, you're all at that level of education. So the qualification's the same, and then it comes down to ideas that you have or fit with the group or expertise that you have that can particularly add to that group. So there are all these like extra things on top of the qualification on your particular skill set that really sort of gets to that end point about whether you'll be successful with those jobs or not.
Any other questions? With that, I suppose, so I guess on behalf of PPA and Joseph Pharma, thank you all so much for taking part in this panel event. I've learned a lot and I feel very inspired as a PhD student now, again, just hearing about all the different pathways there are and all the different routes I could go in my profession. So thank you very much. It's been amazing, and thank you all for attending as well, Shay. I really got something out of it.
Joseph Pharma acknowledges the traditional custodians of the various lands throughout Australia on which we connect today, and pays respect to elders past, present, and future.